The xParticles object will let you generate faces, polygons, and objects. These can then be controlled via the particles. Let's take a look at this scene. In this file, I have a single cube, and the cube is set to 10 by 10 segments. What we're going to do is recreate this cube using Fragmenter, and then we can control each face with modifiers. Go into your menu, select Fragmenter, and also an emitter. Selecting the Fragmenter object, you can see it's asking for an emitter link. Drag and drop the emitter into the link, and you can see we have several modes. The first mode is Faces Objects. What that will do is we'll generate a brand new object for every single face. What I'm going to do is change it to Faces Polys, and that will do the same thing, but it will be a connected polygon object, and that just means it's going to be faster to use. The other option is Objects, and that gives you a list of objects you can use, and we'll take a look at that next. Go to your emitter, change the emitter shape to Object, drag your cube into the Objects list, and enable one particle per source element. Go to Emissions, change it from rate to shot, so it's a single frame of particles generated, and turn speed to 0. We can now hide the cube and push play, and you can see a new cube has been created, and each one has a particle on each face. I'll quickly change the particle display so they can be seen better. Go back and go forward one frame, and you can see the Fragmenter's created this new cube, and each face has a particle attached to it, and that means each particle will control what each face does. So if we add an turbulence modifier, for example, motion, add a turbulence modifier. With the turbulence modifier selected, I'm going to fall off, change it to sphere, lift that up, and with the modifier selected, I'm going to push play, move it down in the viewport, and you'll see the faces start pulling away, and now those particles have been controlled by the turbulence. Let's add some more time on our timeline. Pull this up again, push play, pull it down, and you can see you can get the motion for the faces of any object, and that can now be controlled by the particles. If you want them to look like they're flying in the same direction, what you can do is go to your emitter, emissions, particle rotations, use rotations and set that to tangential, push play, and you can see now they all flow in the same direction. And the Fragmenter is controlling all this. If we go back to our Fragmenter, we have some options: connect polygons, and that will create a single mesh. It will weld them together until they are pulled apart by a modifier, and you have a distance. You can also see that the fongs have been changed as well. You have texturing options and scale options. We're going to leave those for now, and we will look at another one where we will control objects using the Fragmenter. So I'm going to start a new scene. I'm going to get another cube and scale this down. I'm going to make a grid using MoGraph. Drop that into Cloner and create a grid of cubes, and these cubes will be what Fragmenter controls. So I'm going to make this editable, and you can see we have our list here. So go Fragmenter and an emitter, and select Fragmenter, drop the emitter in the list, change it to objects, and you can see we now have an objects list. if we lock this, we can now drop this list in here. So they're now being controlled purely by the Fragmenter object. There's a couple of things we need to do to help set this up. Go to the emitter, go to Object, and change your emitter shape to defined emission. Mode Fragmenter list. Now if we push play, we now have these objects generated as particles. Let's more time. And because the emitter is set to move in the initial direction of positive x, they're flying off that way. What we'll do is change the speed to 0. So now we have our list of objects, much like the cloner. We can then again use any modifiers to control them. So what we'll do is simply put turbulence in there again, and you can see they fly around, and we can again enable the rotation so they move off in their own directions. So that's how to use the Fragmenter object.